Hello everybody and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And first of all, a couple of announcements. By Monday, actually as of yesterday, we will have posted two new videos on wellnessforum.com. One is the presentation that I give at our interactive dinners here, which I think you'll find really interesting. And the second one is for health providers who are looking for training and business guidance, either as part of our network or independently. So I won't go into all the details. You can go to wellnessforum.com and watch these videos, and I think you'll find them very informative, and they're free. Second thing, tonight is the first class in the advanced study course this month, which is on Tom Saz's book, The Myth of Mental Illness, which talks about much more than just mental illness. But I have to tell you, it's one of the most fascinating books I've ever read, and I am really excited that this got picked as an advanced study book because it made me have the time to sit down and read it. I've been meaning to do it for a long time. So if you would like to participate in that, just let us know. You can call the office and register. And then the Diet and Lifestyle course, only a month away, which features the celebrity lineup, including John McDougall, Neil Barnard, Dr. Ralph Moss, CancerDecisions.com, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Alan Goldhammer. I mean, the list is amazing. You get to be live and interactive with these people on the phone every week. And the Informed Medical Consumer Series starts this month too. So if you want dates and schedules and you want to sign up for that, this is going to be an amazing course that will really empower you to make good decisions for yourself and your family. All right, so today I think will be the last time I talk about Dr. Oz for a while, but there are some things that really need to be said about this. And sometimes I say it's the last word and then I get 100 emails about something. Well, not quite the last word. I need to talk about it some more, and that's kind of what happened here. But as you guys know, I've been covering the controversy about Oz for a long time, and I've been a pretty outspoken critic. Last week, Oz responded to his critics, and I think in fairness, we try to be fair here and show various sides of many issues. I think we should take a look at what he has to say, and also some of what's going on around his criticism, which is concerning to me. Okay, so 10 medical doctors sent a letter to Columbia University stating that Oz should no longer be on the faculty of the medical school, and then they sent copies to the press, which is how this story became real public. 8 Columbia faculty members published an op-ed piece in USA Today criticizing what they called Oz's unsubstantiated medical advice. They didn't call for his resignation. They did include a lot of statements about all of the good things that he did at Columbia. This guy's a bright guy, and he has an accomplished career in many areas. Now, to his credit, Oz decided to address his critics on television. I always give credit to people who don't dodge issues. He decided to look right into the camera, talk about all this stuff out in the open. He started first by citing his First Amendment rights to free speech, which I mentioned in my previous broadcast would be an impediment to disciplining him. Now, again, I don't agree with a lot of what Oz says, but silencing people is not the answer to this issue. If Oz can be silenced, then so can others, including you and I. Our founding fathers, and I just took a history class, by the way, so this is fresh in my mind, intended for all Americans to enjoy free speech, not just selected members of specially sanctioned groups. So Oz rightfully said, and this is a quote, "Freedom of speech is the most fundamental right, and we will not be silenced." Oz called recent criticism, quote, public shaming and bullying, and I have to admit the rhetoric has escalated to a place where I think it's gotten unfair and it does border on name calling. He accused the 10 doctors who wrote the letter as being spokespersons for big business who oppose his stance on many issues for economic reasons, and I think that there might be some truth for that. Now, interestingly enough, none of the 10 doctors calling for his removal from the Columbia faculty work there, which might cause one to wonder if Oz is right, that the 10 doctors calling for removal from Columbia faculty have an agenda other than just concern for a school with which they have zero affiliation. That does make you wonder. Well, there's some background to the story, as you might imagine. According to a story posted on Medscape Medical News, 4 of the 10 doctors are past or present officials with the American Council on Science and Health. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, I've been writing and talking about this group for a good number of years. Now, its name might lead somebody to conclude that this is some type of think tank that addresses health issues. In reality, the group is funded by millions of dollars every year that they take from food and drug manufacturers, agricultural groups, and lobbying organizations. And plenty of articles in the Health Bracelet Library about this, so I'll let you go there to look at them. Its former president and founder, Elizabeth Whalen, who I believe recently died, was a Yale and Harvard-trained medical doctor who wrote the silliest articles. One of them defended sugary cereals, stating that anybody who had criticized sugary cereal just didn't understand that sugar makes good foods taste, healthy foods taste good to children. The group supports the use of Roundup and e-cigarettes, opposes mandatory labeling of genetically modified foods, and Oz is in favor of labeling, and I don't think that's an unreasonable stance. Whalen and her colleagues, by the way, were paid very well. In 2003, I looked at their tax return. She and two others who worked for the company at that time, or the agency, had combined salaries of over $638,000. So there's a lot of money in speaking out in favor of Roundup and e-cigarettes. Oz allocated a portion of his show to two of the 10 docs who called for his resignation. He stated that Henry Miller, MD, was a supporter of the tobacco industry in the 1990s, but he spoke a lot more about this guy, Gilbert Ross, medical director, who is the executive and medical director of the American Council on Science and Health. He was convicted of Medicaid fraud in 1993 and served time in prison. The state of New York reinstated his medical license after he reported that he had rehabilitated himself. Oh my gosh, what more could you need than the self-reporting of "I'm cured"? Ross doesn't deny this, but now says he wishes he hadn't spoken out because his background deflects from a focus on Oz. Now, in response to Oz's claim that he's entitled to free speech, Ross says this: "Let's be clear," this is a quote, "no one is looking to deny Oz his right to free speech. All the public deserves is that when he speaks," italics are his, "he sticks to offering sound medical advice that helps his viewers rather than causing them harm." Now that all sounds good, but the key is, how do we determine what constitutes sound medical advice? Many medical doctors have called some of the doctors who promote plant-based diets quacks, and even Peter Gotchke with the Cochrane Collaboration, the most independent medical research organization on the planet, has been called quack and other things by some people. Oz read a statement from the authors of the British Medical Journal article that analyzed claims made on the show, and they said, quote, they were disappointed that the overwhelming commentary seems to be that our study proves that Dr. Oz and physicians on another television show are quacks or charlatans or worse. Our data in no way supports these conclusions. So again, the rhetoric is rising far above what the issue is here, and calls to silence Oz are not appropriate. He also commented on the GMO issue, saying that his issue is not, as the signers of the letter said, that he's opposed to GMOs, but, quote, "just like 64 countries around the world, I support GMO labeling so you can decide on the foods for your family." I don't know how anybody could be critical of that. As for the American Council for Science and Health, I'm happy to draw more attention to that group instead of Oz because they're far more dangerous. Dr. Paul Offit, one of the top 10 spokespersons for the vaccine industry, he's made tens of millions of dollars on vaccines. And by the way, his position at both the hospital where he's housed and his university position are paid for by Merck, which is a company that makes vaccines. He says he's resigning the ACSH now because of the agency's support of e-cigarettes. Amazing that he can say that babies can tolerate, and this is a quote, 10,000 vaccines at once, but my gosh, affiliation with a group that likes e-cigarettes, that's off the table. Well, I expect that this will be all for a while on the Oz case, but I'm talking about it to try to point out that the issue is not just as simple as telling Oz to be quiet. It's not getting state medical boards involved or having the AMA develop guidelines about what people can and cannot say on television. Those ideas, by the way, are all being discussed right now. I'm an Oz critic too, but censorship isn't the answer. And as mentioned before, some of his critics are far more dangerous than he is, I think. The only answer to the situation is informing consumers so they can make better choices. Remember, Dr. Green, one of Oz's colleagues at Columbia University, said that medical practice doesn't often adhere to the evidence. That's the problem that needs to be solved, not Oz. All right? So one other thing I want to cover really quickly, just a quick blurb. Those of you who are pet lovers like I am and are parents to pets, I learned a long time ago we don't refer to ourselves as pet owners. We are pet parents, right? Because we're mom and dad to these cats and dogs and that sort of thing. My videography is smiling right now because she's a cat lover who has cats too. All right, so I've written a lot of articles about nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs, for humans, but it turns out that they're harmful to pets too. And the FDA just sent out an alert about this issue. Now, the way that pets are getting NSAIDs is not that owners are putting NSAIDs in their food or anything like that for the pet's pain. The way that this is happening is there are now creams that contain NSAIDs, and people put those creams on their body, and if your pets are like my cat wants to be held and cuddled and snuggled and everything else, so the pets then come in contact with the cream that contains the NSAID, and it's terribly toxic to cats and dogs. One example that was cited in a news release about this is 2 cats in one household developed kidney failure, and they recovered with some veterinary care, but 2 cats in another household developed lethargy, vomiting, and other symptoms and died in spite of getting medical care. A 3rd cat in that same household died after the owner stopped using the cream, but on autopsy, all 3 cats had evidence of NSAIDs toxicity. So the FDA issued a set of recommendations saying that keep the medications out of the reach of pets, and make sure that you discard any type of clothing or rags, anything that has this stuff on it. Consult a healthcare provider about whether it's appropriate to cover the treated area. And if the pet gets exposed, bathe them thoroughly, seek veterinary care, that sort of thing. And so they had all kinds of suggestions. Here's a suggestion I have. How about you figure out the source of the pain and fix it, and then you won't need the NSAIDs, and then your cats and dogs won't have to worry about getting poisoned. That's a much better idea, in my opinion. All right, that is all for today as usual. Feel free to pass this on to anybody who might enjoy watching it, and I will be back to you on Thursday with more news.